p01, p02 and readme.md file. Correct? So what we are gonna do, we will create one more project today. mkdir p03. Okay. So now we'll navigate to the folder. Now how many folders we need to create? Two, right? What are the two folders? One is for API, another one is for web. Okay. So we can navigate to the API folder. Another one we can navigate to the web folder. Okay. So for the API, we will hold all the Flask related files. For web, we will hold all the React related files. Okay. What is the first step that we have to do? We have to install the Flask virtual environment. Correct? So can we do that? So you can follow your Windows commands. I'll follow the Mac command. Done. So step 1. Parallelly, we can also initiate one more thing. What is that? Wait. Correct? So we'll do the get started and then we'll grab the template one. Then we can adjust it for React. Okay. So this will be the React one, React template that we need. The folder name can be, or the project name can be web. Okay. So I initialize both parallelly, and here virtual environments are added. So now what we have to do? We have to activate it. Correct? So if you are using Windows, then you have to follow the Windows command. I have to follow the Mac command. So now if you notice here, .vnv is added. Correct? So now what is the next step? We can easily get started. Before that, we have to do the install. Can we do the installation? Yeah. So I think here also done. The only thing here, what we always do, we will go to the folder, and then there'll be sub folder. So we'll drag everything and then keep it in one level, so that we don't want to go nested web under web. Okay. So because we already in the web folder, so we can skip this line, correct? Because we are in the same folder. So we can do the npm install. So here what we have to do? Here we have to start running the code. So shall we start with the quick start? So for now we can copy the snippet. What we are gonna do? So if you go to API folder, in your case you might see .vnv folder, but what we have done, we have added to the, we have excluded. Okay, so if you are searching for exclude, so we have excluded this particular folder. The same way, node modules also we have excluded. Okay, so it means that those folder will not be visible in the VS Code. Shall we create a file called app.py? Then what we can do? We can paste the command and then try to run it. So we can run with the debug command so that it will auto restart whenever we do the changes. Depends on the scenario or depends on the versions. Debug flag will work or will not work. Okay, you have to adjust it accordingly. So if you notice here, hyphen debug is not working. Yes or no? So we'll run without. Okay, sir, I have to change it to the app name, that is app. Okay, good to go. Server is started. So from the front end, what we have to do? We have to run npm run dev. So that we have already discussed. So if you go to web folder now, in the package.json, you will have some the part dev build lint. So let's say if you want to do the build, what you have to do? You have to run it like the same npm run. Instead of dev, you have to use build. Okay, that's it. So now both the servers are running. So if you notice here, localhost 127.0.0.1, port number is 5000. Here the localhost 5173. There are port. So in your case also, if the port number might vary, you have to adjust it accordingly. Understood? Okay. So now for the API, to check the API, what we can do? Dev dot, we can create a rest files. Correct? So what we can do? So first we'll declare a variable. So is this related to Flask or is it related to React or any of the VS Code thing? No, this is, we are using some extension REST client. Okay, so they are following some standard. So for now I'll try to use so that we can run the APIs in the VS Code itself. Okay, va? So get, can we keep it as slash? Okay, before that we have to access the hosts followed by slash. Done, na? So if you run it now, what will happen? The data are coming, yeah? So now what we can do, we can go here and then try to adjust it. So we'll, as usual, we always have some certain pattern to return the API all the time. What is that? Status. This is our own convention. This is nowhere related to any of the programming standards. Let me add it as home. Okay, ma? Then payload. Let keep it as empty. Okay, ma? Any query so far? Yeah. So now what we can do, we can go and check it again whether it is okay, working fine or not. See what happened here. It returns the previous one. It means that either server is not restarted properly. Right? So we'll stop it again and we'll try to run it again. Debug is not working. We'll see what can be done. For now, I'll restart it. Okay. So now if we go back and then check data sir came up. Any queries so far? Okay. So now our goal is to create a login API. So what we can do, we can keep something like auth. Okay. Well, so let's say this also auth. We can try to return. By default, let me keep it as simple. Login successful. Okay. Well, simple. See, whenever we start with something, so we always have to start with very minimalistic, and you have to go one step at a time, so that in an initial day of learning, that is more important. Okay, ma? So now still we need to restart the server. Why? Because the debug flag is not working because of that. So we'll fix it later. For now, how do we add one more route? We can add triple hash get host followed by auth. Correct? So we have given us auth only. So the path name. Understood? So can we check now? Yes. But if I change this one to only for post, how do we do that? We can add a method arguments. Correct? Only for post. If I run, what will happen? We will get an error. It means that either the method is not allowed, so some sort of things. Correct? Why it is not coming error? That is because after the changes, what we have to do? We have to restart. I'll tell you later. For now, we'll restart it. Can you see that? So changes are applied. Now we change it to post here. We change it to post. Now it will work fine. Okay, va? So far so good in the backend part. For the front end part, what we can do? So already server is up and running. So we can just check the snippet. We'll go back to the code. So for now, I'll close all the API app related things. So before that, can we do the commit? Correct. So we'll navigate to the project folder. What we can do? Git status. So P3 folder is completely added new. Yes or no? So we can also try to add the git ignore so that we don't want to. Add any of the relevant files. Okay, node modules or pack dependencies. Okay, now we'll come back and then check again. I think git ls files. So if you notice here that the list of files that can be goes for a commit. Okay, so I think this does not include the any node modules or .pnv folder. Okay, so now how do we commit? Before that we have to add git ada. Then oops. So git commit to specify the message. What we can do? We can use -m -m, and then what we can do? Done now? Now added. So now what we can do? So that we can push it to the origin. Okay, va? Front end also what we can do? So we'll minimize all the API folder. In the this one, what we can do? We'll try to remove all the CSS. We don't want any of the CSS for now. In the web also, what we can do? We will try to remove everything and then try to keep it as okay, va? Can we change this one also into arrow function? Done now? So I think that's it. Maybe if you want to change the title, what we can do? We can also change the title in the home page. Good to go. So here, whatever we have written as root now, the same thing exists here. Document.getElement by id root. Let's say if you want to add some other things also, let's say that also will come separately. Okay, well, so whatever we are doing it in the React part, that will be rendered inside this particular development. Understood? So any queries so far? Okay, shall we go ahead? So the only thing we need to have the login component, correct? So better from the start itself, we'll keep it in the separate file. Can we create a file called JSX, login.jsx? Can we create a simple component? So we can take props, but anyway, that is optional, but only one things are there. Return. Okay, so this is, let's say I'll keep it as login form. So login form here. Okay, can we export? How do we export? Export default login form. Good to go. So how do we import that in app.tsx? Correct. So here the top import login, because it's a default export. So from login, better I'll change that to both to login form itself. Okay, so now every places will have the same conventions. So let's say this will be what is our next step? We wanted to connect to the DB. Yes or no? Further, it requires Mongo DB has to be installed and some GUI, either Robo 3T or Mongo Compass has to be installed. Then what we have to do? We have to use the localhost 27017 to connect the DB and then try to check. So in my case, I have already connected. Shall we create one more database now? M0. Okay. Let me keep it as 3 so that it will be in the same sequence. Okay, well? Then what we'll do? We will create one more collection called users. Okay, well? Done. Any of the documents are there here? No. Correct. So here the first argument we can call it as selection. Second argument we can pass it as a projections. Correct. So let me add one document. How do we add one document? Insert document. If we pass underscore ID, it will not create one. But if you're not passing underscore ID, what will happen? It will create an object ID with unique value. Okay, let me pass one for now. What are the other things we have? Let me keep username. Let's say user1. See, in normal, in reality, what we will not do, we will not store the password, in a visible format. What we will do, we will encrypt and store it. For initial learning purpose, what I'm gonna do, I'll try to keep it this way. And then we will, when we do programmatically, we'll do the encryption and then we'll add it. Okay, ba? PWD 1. Then full name will be user 1. Is it okay? Shall we add it? Now if I run it, what will happen? How many documents has to return? Only one document will be returned. Can we add the same way for the second one? But for now in this scenario, we'll try to use insert 1. If you are using in PyMongo, we have to use underscore 1. But if you are running it in Robo 318, then what you have to use it in the in the camel case one. Okay, va? Okay, so now will be 2. User also will be 2. Password also will be 2. Here also 2. The only thing for number, what we have to do? We have to change it into the integer number 2. I mean number into. Why? Because if not, what will happen? It will create as a double. That is a limitations in the robot3D. That is no overlay to the commands. Okay, va? Good to go. So whenever after a successful insertion, what will happen? You will get the results. It is simple object, right? But why are we saying that that is a document instead of object? Why? Because it supports different data types. Because we know that JSON will support only 5 to 6 types. Let's say string, number, boolean, that is true or false or null or array or object. Correct? Any other than value will not be supported by the JSON. But whereas here it will support number, int, same way date time, object ID, so and so. Okay, va? So there is a difference between the document and the object. Okay, va? But if you know object, then it is easier to learn anything related to that. How many documents inserted so far? 3 inserted. This is the 4th one. What if I try to insert the same thing? Because now already underscore ID 4 is already inserted. If I try to insert the same ID, what will happen? We will get the duplicate error. Correct? So duplicate text. Can you see that duplicate key? Good to go. Yeah. So now we'll come back with the find query. Yeah. So how many documents are there now? 4. I can also check the count. Kind of chaining method. You can do that. 4. Now let's say I wanted only the document 2. What we'll do? We can apply this selection. So can we pass like this? Yeah. So it will return only this one. What if I wanted 2 and 3 as well? I can use inquiry 2, 3. Okay, va? See, because whenever I'm adding any brackets, right? Whenever I'm putting open bracket, I'm immediately putting the closed brackets. That is why I'm not worrying about whether it is closed or not. Okay, va? See, because I'm doing fast doesn't mean that I'm not looking into. So what you have to do, whenever you do something, whenever you are opening any tag, you have to close immediately so that you need not to worry much. And whatever you are typing, that should be in your control. How that will be in your control? If you keep on practicing, that will be in your control. Okay. Now the same way we can also put in, not in, correct? What else? Again, yesterday we saw no equal. Let's say equal to, we have to supply only one value, that is which is similar to which one? Which is similar to underscore ID colon 2. Correct? Okay. So far so good. Shall we proceed? So now our goal is that, let's say somebody searching, somebody entering in the username field username, and then the password field password, and then when they try to click on the login, then we have to take it, we have to check and then login. Correct? First, before even doing it in the code, either in the Python side or in the front end side, try to check here so that the query that you are trying to prepare in the Python side, whether it returns the related results or not. Okay. First, assuming that, because anyway user will the user enter 2, 3, 4 something like that, or will user enter user 2 or user 3 something like that? How they will enter? So, but that is nothing, doesn't matter what ID that we are maintaining. That is only for our internal purpose. Yes or no? To maintain the unique records. But what user will enter? In the username, whatever the property username is there, no username, password, whatever they have entered, so they will type. So how do we do that? First thing, because now we have more than one line, so better I'll try to keep it in the, I'll try to do the indentation so that will be easier for you to view. So we have only one object, correct? Now what we have to do? So let's say if the user is entering user 1, correct? If I type user 1, then this is how we have to instead of user one, this data has to be supplied from the form which is we have submitted, correct? So in Python, how we can access the value, the payload data, if it is a content is a JSON type, with the help of request, Flask request, we can able to access the JSON, correct? Request.json, that will give you an object or the dictionary. Inside the dictionary, how you can access whatever the key that you are passing from, with that key you can able to access the content data. Okay, if I try to search, what will happen? Is it returning one document? Okay, so now there is one more way, one more thing what we have to do. We have to use password colon, let's say pw1. Let's assuming that I'm typing correct password. Okay, now what will happen? It returns. What if I'm passing password 2? Now none of the document will match, so it will return nothing, correct? So now what you can do, based on that, you can prepare a selection query. Then you can you can check whether the data is there or not. Based on the data is there or not, what you can do, you can check whether the document is exist or not. You can either return access denied generally, or you can say that no, you do not have any account. Let's say somebody typing user 10, assuming that you are typing some email ID that you have forgot, but you don't know what you have put. Okay, instead of username field, let's say email field. Okay, now whenever you are trying to enter some account, but that does not exist, let me put password is correct. Let's say assuming that I'm looking for the user 1, but I enter the username wrong. Okay, now also what will happen? No data will return. Why? Because there is no user 10 exists. So now you can return stating that either access denied you will return, so that you don't want to reveal whether any of the internal details or internal validations. Or sometimes you can tell them politely that okay, account does not exist for this username, so use this link to create an account, something like that. What we can say, we can suggest. So depends on the places they will adjust. Let's say if it is banking related things, no, what they will try to returns, they will simply say that access denied or invalid user ID password. That's it. Whether account is exist, whether account is not exist, whether username is correct or password is correct. If any of the one is not correct, what they will do, they simply return invalid password. Please try again, because those are the sensitive details. Though I'm trying to take a simple example. Okay, but if you are trying to use that for entertainment platforms, their goal is to increase the user base, correct? So those places, what they will do, they will return it as, if the account does not exist, would you like to create an account? Click here to verify your OTP, something like that. They will try to engage the user. Okay, but if it is a sensitive area and depends on the users or the business, what they will do, we can adjust the context. Okay, the only thing message they will return, then we have to show it to the user side. Yes or no? That is what we want to do. Now how many users are there now in this scenario? Totally 4 users are there in our collection. The M3 database, M03 database, we have users collections. Inside that, how many documents are there? 4 documents are there. Good to go. Now we have to access with the help of what? Using Python, correct? So we are using Flask, so we will install some packages for Python. What is that? PyMongo. We'll go here, then we'll do the installation. Okay, I'm just copying the command and then try to, I have stopped the server, ensure that I'm in the API folder. Yeah, I'm in API folder, and also my environment is activated, if you noticed. Okay, you have to install only after activating the environment. Ensure that you will see something like that in open parenthesis, you will see the virtual environment. Okay, so that the package will be installed within the same folder. Okay, oops. So we have to copy this command, install it. So now let's say if you want to write all the files, which whatever the packages that I can install in my system, what I can do. Okay, we can write it to the recommend.txt, so that later point in time, if any of your teammates, if they wanted to use, what they can do, they can read the recommend.txt and then install. So that let's say if you have installed 10 packages for the initial commit, for every team members wanted to utilize, what they can do, pip install -r requirement.txt, something like that. They can use the command, so that what it does, it will just read the requirement.txt and then start installing all the related files. Okay, va? So now shall we start the server? Yeah. Okay. So last time we have some issues, no, that debugging part, correct? So for that, what we can do, we can add one more thing called export Flask debug equal to true. If you set this flag, no, what it does, it will allow the debug by default. Whenever you allow the debug by default, so that it will be like a dev environment. Whenever you are making any file changes, what will happen? It will try to detect the changes of the files and then try to restart the server by itself, so that we don't want to start it manually every time whenever any changes happen to the Flask files. Okay, va? Yes, we'll come back. Now what is the next step that we want to do? As usual, some instructions are there. Now we have to go for a simple example. See, the same scenario, we have to try for any different packages. So let's say if you have some requirement, then you are installing some packages, what you can do? You can go and read the official documentation and try to see what is their style of documentations. Okay, va? So that if you familiarize, so you can easily go and access and then adjust it as needed. So now what we can do, shall we import here? Correct. So we'll import it on the top. Step 1 is done. Step 2, we have to check this one. Correct. So I'll try to keep it in the home route. Done. Now if we run this command, if everything's working fine, then okay. If it does not work, what is mean by that? Something is not working correctly. Correct. See, we should not add so many complexity, and then if you copied 10 lines, 20 lines, and then paste it, and then you will get an error. Then it's very difficult for you to follow in the initial days. But once you have a comfortable knowledge, then you need not to worry, because you know what you're doing. Yeah. So what we'll do, first we will pass this string, because with the same string only you might have connected to the robo3d. Yes or no? So we'll pass it and then try to check. So if I go back to dev and then try to dev and then try to call the root one. Is it working fine now? Now the only thing we have printed, so ensure that the same print message coming in the terminal or command prompt in your case. Okay, va? Now that line is working perfectly fine. What we can do, we can go for a next line. As we know that there are two ways to access: dot notation, square notation. Now whenever you see some similar things that you have already learned, then try to recall and then try to revise. Let's say in the front end, for the object, what we will do, either we will use dot notation or square notation to access the key. Correct? The same way here you have two methods. One is to use dot method, another one is to use square method. So for now I'll go for a dot method. So this is a client variable. Inside client, what is the database name? In our case, M03. Correct? Now I have to print it and then check whether it's working perfectly fine or not. So now after restarting, what happened? Oh, sorry, I supposed to run this one. Can you see here the client is not printed because we have removed the client print, and then we have added only db1. Okay, va? So now can we add the subsequent commands what they have given? So after that we need to access the collection name. Correct or not? What is our collection name? Users. Our collection name is users. So what we will do, we will go back and then this is users. I'll change the name to mdb2. I'll change it to mdb. Okay, va? Now we'll remove the db. So now because it's working already. Correct? We need to check now. So it means that's a Mongo DB server also running. So we need not to worry much right now. So we'll go and run it again. Okay, fine. Collection also working fine. Good to go. Okay, va? So far so good. Yeah. So now what I'll do, I'll try to keep these two lines outside, because anyway we need other places for now. Okay, va? Now MDB. So now how many data are there in our collection? Oh, so it's an array, right? It's an iterator. So let's say if you are using iterator, we can able to take the data for item in mdb.users. We can use the find query. Correct? Can we try to print the item. Understood so far? See, it's a very simple for loop, for in, that we are using in Python. We have to use for in, correct? So this will be the cursor that is returns every time. What we can do, we can simply iterate and then print. So if we run it, we go back to the terminal. What happened now? There are 4 users which we have added to the database. Now we have some simple query. We'll try now. Shall we can we able to return the same thing to the front end? Yes, we can. Let's say instead of printing here, what we can do? Users dot up and off item. Can we return that? Then now if we run, what will happen? So instead of printing in the terminal, it will return to the API. Correct? Whenever we are calling an API, the data will be returned to the API. Understood? So how many data are there here? 4. Correct? See, underscore ID, full name, password, username. But how we have inserted? Underscore ID, username, password, full name. Can you see the order? So, but here order is changed. But this order is not changed. Can you notice? Okay, the inserted order is it's keep on following, but still in Mongo DB does not always return the same order. It works in one way. Okay, but for understanding purpose, I'm saying array follow the order, object will not follow the orders, because when we are talking about object, we are talking about the related properties of the one value. Correct? Yeah. Shall we go ahead further? So in auth, what we will try to do? Here, what we will try to do, we'll keep it as username. What is the username that we are trying to look for? User 1, correct? So let me hardcode now. Okay. Password I will not worry right now. So let me keep, let's say user equal to mdb dot users dot find one of username. So instead there find underscore 1 or find 1. 1 will be the camel case, but here we have to use snake case. Okay, well, this is a simple command that we have followed. We are following in the documentations, based on the documentations. Okay, well? Now if I try to print, what will happen? If we notice here we are not using for loop. Yes or no? Why? Because we are trying to search only one document. Expectation also only one document. But whereas in the previous example, we are using find, it means there could be a possibility 0 or more documents. Why I am saying 0 or more? Because if you have whatever the filter that you are passing, if does not exist, what will happen? It will return 0 document. But it can be a possibility of 1, 2, 3, 4 in n numbers. Correct? Yes or no? But here we are using only find one. The expectations of result will be, doesn't matter even if 10 documents matches, but it will always return only one document. Okay, ma? Now can we call this one now? So we can call the second one success. Now if we go back, can you see that the document is came? Yes or no? It does not return the cursor. It instead of that, it returns the actual document. Okay, ma? It means now okay. Now can we add one more thing called password? Now if I try to, let's say this is a filter, right? I'll try to change filter or selection for now. Can I keep it as variable for now? We can also keep it as a variable and then pass it to the function, right? As an argument. Understood? See here, what we have done, instead of keeping the complete value inside the argument itself, we have keep it in a variable and then try to use the variable. Okay. Now we'll go and check. How many of you say that the data will come or data will not come? Data will come, sure. Is it password is correct? Password is not correct, no. So it's supposed it should not return anything, correct? So it will return none. Okay, va? But if I go and adjust pwd1, then what we are expecting is that one data. Understood? So the same thing. Hey, we wanted to mimic the instead of returning it, what we are trying to do, we are just hard coded the data. Username and password we are hard coded, and then we are just doing the data. I mean, we are just querying the database. Okay, va? Now, can we say that? Let's say whenever the user variable, if the user variable not exist, and if user and underscore id in user, if it is not there, what is mean by that? It mean by that user is not exist. Correct? It means that either username is not correct, or password is not correct, or the account itself not there. Yes or no? Understood what I'm saying? If not, if it is exist, what we can do? We can return the user data. Understood? Only thing, whenever we are returning something, because we are returning the password sensitive, so what we will try to do, we can try to remove that from the user. So in the projections, can we remove that password? We can keep it as 0, so that the whatever the document which is written, no, it will not come, because we don't want to return to the front end, because we don't want to show it to the any of the APIs. Correct? Now we'll go back and then try to run. Now successful. Why? Because we were hard coded the username password correct. If I pass something else, what will happen? Then now only one part is left. What is that? Because now we were hard coded within the API, we don't want to hard code here. Instead of that, we have to pass it to the API. Yes or no? So for now, because we know in REST client we can also pass it like this. Okay. Now here, how we can access that username password? With the help of how we can access. Correct? That we can import from where? Flask. Okay, va? Request dot. Shall we print here? Whatever the data is coming from the front end. Now we have printed, but we have not touched the, still the data are hard coded, but we have not handled anything. In the API, how are we passing? Admin, but in the backend, how are we changing it? For now, we have hard coded. Okay, va? We'll check it first and then try to see. Type error dictionary object is not callable. Okay, so maybe it's a dictionary, simple dictionary, JSON. Okay, shall we try now? Yes. Can you see that input is coming here? Yes. So input, inside input, it's a dictionary. Correct? So in the previous example itself, you can easily see what we are got. See what it says that type error dictionary object is not callable, because dictionary we are trying to call the function, call it like a function. That is why this error came. Okay, well, so now what we can do? Now in the input variable, we know that the username is coming. So input of username, input of password. Maybe can we print the selection? We can print the selection also. We'll try to see. So now if I run it, we go back now. Did we print it? Yeah, printed input of password. Okay. Is it restarted? Oh, okay. Came. Yeah. Can you see that selection is came? Okay. Well, now if I go back and then try to change the password, what is the actual password? User1 ps pwd. Yeah, pwd1. Whenever if I pass exact correct password, it will return the data. If I change something else, it return the invalid credentials. Now if we call the same API with the same pattern, now server will work. Yes or no? Now server side is pakka, API side is pakka, because we have handled all the cases. What are the two cases or three cases? Either document match, but either username password might not be correct, or the document itself might not be there, or document is exists successfully. But only thing, we have safely excluded the password, like if it is a right credentials. In the return data, is it password is there? No, in the projections, we are trying to limit that. I mean, whenever we put 0, it means that we are excluding. Whenever we put 1, we are including. Okay, va?